Hello and welcome to Culture in Between, a podcast all about exploring the unique experiences of people who grew up in a culture outside of their parents' culture. We are your hosts, Alyssa and Brianna, and in today's episode, we get to talk to Amelia, who has Dominican and Puerto Rican roots. Amelia, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Right, Bri, tell us a little bit about how you and Amelia know each other.
Yeah, so Amelia and I met when we both attended grad school at the Peabody Institute of Music in Baltimore. We both majored in vocal performance there. And and we've been friends ever since. We actually became better friends after we graduated, which is odd how that happens, but sometimes that's how it goes. But anyway, so that's how we met. And Amelia, would you like to kind of briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. As Brianna said, we met in grad school, and I am Puerto Rican Dominican. I am from Northern Virginia, kind of born and bred, and I don't know what else should I say about myself. I work at a church, and I like learning about different cultures and different languages. So your podcast has been really interesting to listen to and hear the perspectives of other people as well. Like I'm learning Korean and Welsh right now. I'm not doing very well in either of those things, but I guess
cool.
it's me, kind of.
Yeah, very cool. Born and bred. I like that. So born and raised. I hadn't heard the phrase that way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know. I like that.
Maybe that's, I don't know. Sometimes I think I'm Southern.
Okay, maybe it's just me.
Born and bred.
Yeah, I've heard that. I like it. Yeah.
For sure. Well, thank you for joining us.
Nova, Northern Virginia.
Yes, Northern Virginia, Nova.
Yeah.
It's very different from the rest of Virginia, and also it's not necessarily the South, but it's also not really the North either. So it's somewhere kind of in between, mid-Atlantic, if you will.
Yeah. It's a little bit like Miami in that way, in terms of like Miami's geographically in the South, but like not culturally in the South. So yeah,
that's a very true statement.
Very, very interesting. So as you noted, you're Puerto Rican and Dominican. So your mother is Puerto Rican, correct? And your father is Dominican. Can you tell us where exactly in each place your parents are from?
So my mom was born in Ciales, which I believe is like mountain area. And my dad was born in San Francisco de Macorís, which is part of the Cibao. This might be a different question for later, but I have not been to either of Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic. So my mom's kind of mountainous. My dad's kind of like, they're both kind of country, if you will. They call it the campo. Like they're not city based.
Gotcha.
And then my mom also grew up in Manatí. She moved there a little bit after in her childhood. And then they met in Brooklyn.
So fun.
Yeah.
Do you know what age they immigrated or came to the States?
Yeah, I think they were both around middle school age, but they have a 6-year age gap, so they kind of found themselves in New York, kind of middle school age. Yeah, my mom first went to Rochester and lived in Rochester with her dad's parents for a little bit, and then moved to the city with the rest of her siblings.
Gotcha. And so she had family. Your parents have family like already in the States when they and that's a common thing. Same thing with our parents. Like it's always interesting to hear how parents meet each other sometimes. Even our parents in the same country, they met in Miami but like didn't know each other in Jamaica. So it's just always intriguing to me kind of hear how did they get here. Usually my parents both had people already here that help them out and stuff like that. So it's a common thing.
I think especially with Caribbean people, it's the proximity makes it easier to have family here. Yeah. So Amelia, do you speak Spanish?
I do speak Spanish. My dad especially wanted his kids to speak Spanish. He only speaks to us in Spanish. My mom will speak to us in both. But growing up, he was, I think, very adamant that his kids speak his language. And so he could communicate with them. And I think it was my first language. It's not my dominant language now, but I do consider myself blessed to know it. it helped me a lot when I was communicating with my grandmother, because she, on my mom's side, because she only spoke Spanish. And so I thought, oh, good, this is a way that I can actually speak with her and kind of learn from her and joke around with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had other guests say the same things, that they're really happy that their parents helped them, taught them the language so that they could communicate with like older relatives and things like that. And I've said this before, but I think it's such a disservice when kids don't learn the language, because it's, it's not going to hurt, right? Like it makes you versatile, and that's great that you can kind of communicate. And I think that's one thing I noticed, is that when you said you think it was your first language, which means it's probably was so integrated with English, it feels like you probably learned both, which is always the best way, I think, to learn a language, is not have to learn. You just kind of go.
Yeah.
So
I think someone once asked me if I dream in Spanish or English, which I thought was an interesting question.
It is.
And I was like, I don't know. Or when I speak Spanish, do I think in that language, or do I think in Spanish or English? And I was like, I don't know. I just speak. I was like,
yeah.
I don't know. But it makes sense. Brianna, I'm gonna out you, has been learning Spanish slowly. It's really the same as me learning other languages.
Slowly.
But
Emphasis on slowly.
I found like when I'm thinking in English, it's harder for me to like try and answer something in another language, because and so I'm like, oh, maybe that's, so I guess that's where their question came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've heard that. I actually, one of the like things that I use to help me learn Spanish is this YouTube channel called Dreaming Spanish, because I think it's like that's like a common question, is people ask like, what language do you dream in? Because like I guess that's supposed to be like a measure of how like integrated the language is in your mind. But yes, Amelia is gracious enough to have helped me like practice Spanish by just like listening to me babble in Spanish on the phone, and like we practice with me. And yeah, we've had to like, but of course like my Spanish is so bad, so we have to like switch to English sometimes. And I'm sure that was like a bit of a challenge to have to keep going back and forth.
Yeah. I really want to learn one day, but it's so hard as an adult. And Ran and I always joke that like the Spanish they teach us in school is a joke. It is like a joke.
Really? Yeah.
All I can say is like uvas, grapes, and like count and colors, and like random things.
Like this is gonna help me with an actual conversation when someone wants to know about my life and what I'm doing.
Yeah.
How do I say office worker?
Yeah. I actually learned the most when I was in college, and our Spanish teachers only spoke to us in Spanish. And I've
immersion.
Yeah, and I actually felt
burst into the fire, I say.
Yeah. So
anyway, no, that is the best way. So since you mostly spoke Spanish with your dad growing up, do you speak like Dominican Spanish more than Puerto Rican Spanish?
I think our house is like a weird in between dialect, if you will. Like I speak old Caribbean Spanish. like I know none of the modern slang, like current slang. I know none of the current words. If I listen to Bad Bunny, I'm confused half the time. I don't know what he's saying. So I guess it would be like an old Caribbean Spanish I like to think of.
That's funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
What are the nuances between like a Puerto Rican Spanish and a Dominican Spanish, you would say?
Oh gosh. I would probably not be the best person to ask this, because I've only just been around my parents.
Right. Yeah.
Growing up in Northern Virginia, there aren't that many Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. There's many more Central Americans and some South Americans as well. I've seen a lot of Venezuelans and some like Ecuadorians, Argentinians as well. But it's a lot of the people from Mexico, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua. And I'm sure I'm missing some, so sorry. So like I've only known their Spanish and then maybe my grandma's Spanish, but it's kind of been like sanded, if you will. Like it's not so rough, pure in terms of the accent. I don't know. My dad's louder. I don't know if that's like, but I think he's just naturally loud, louder than others.
Yeah, I don't know. I've heard that Dominican Spanish is like harder for someone who's learning Spanish, because it's like I don't know, I guess they like don't enunciate things as well, but I feel like that's a lot of other places too. I don't know. That's the only thing that I've heard.
Interesting.
As far as
something that Puerto Ricans get kind of made fun of often is dropping their R's. So for some, well, there are some dialects, some people will, their R's will change to a more guttural sound. And I didn't realize this until I heard my grandmother. I can't really emulate it in a way, but there's something about how she pronounced her words. Like some of her R's would sound like huz almost. But then they'd also like drop their R's and it'd sound like L, like Puerto Rico instead of Puerto Rico. Is something I think I'd seen a couple clips on it where someone was actually exploring that. Like, is there an actual kind of linguistic reason why this is the case? And I'd have to go back and explore it. So that's something that is kind of particular to Puerto Rican Spanish.
Very cool. It's very interesting to me how different it is.
Yeah.
And, when I would take Spanish in school and like, show them what we were learning, and like my friends would be like, nobody talks like this, because I guess we learned the textbook Spanish and
Right.
like, remember like a lot of the ustedes and all that kind of. I don't know if people really say that, or I just didn't realize all the nuances there. So yeah.
But going back to like how you were talking about how you learned like old Caribbean Spanish and like how you wouldn't understand like the modern slang and all that, I actually want to go back to like a conversation that you and I had privately, Amelia, like a little while ago.
So I remember
not like
it.
anything. I know, yeah. You might not, because maybe it only like was interesting to me, but I thought I thought it was interesting. We talked one time about how like both you and I, like our parents are kind of older, and we kind of have that culture of like our version of, for me, Jamaican culture, and for you like Puerto Rican Dominican culture is like still kind of stuck in like when our parents were there, like it's like our like frame of reference is whatever like time period our parents lived there,
right,
rather than like the current time. I mean, of course, like I'm sure both of us have like seen like things from those countries in regularly now, but it's just not the same as like really living it. So I just thought that was interesting how sometimes when you have, especially when you have older parents, your frame of reference of their culture is like kind of stuck in that time period in a way. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Like, I don't know if
I get, it's true. For me, whenever I think about Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, I don't have my own experiences of it, obviously, because I've never been. But it is interesting to think about what I know about the culture and the islands, plural, is from my parents, but then what they remember and what they've lived as almost as children, because they came over when they were so young. And my mom, I think she went back at some point, but it was many years ago before I was born. And then my dad, I think the last time that he went back was when his mother passed, which was when I was very young. I can't remember, obviously. It's been so long. I think I was in elementary school, it must have been. So their memories even are still kind of stuck in a time capsule, if you will, of what the islands are like, what the culture is like, solely from what they remember and what they know. So really, it's not even just from my parents' perspective, but their perspective as children almost. That is all I really know about it. So some of their memories are happy ones. Some of them are less happy ones, but it's kind of, so if I ever went, I don't even know what I would expect.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of it from that perspective of like kind of their point of view in time. Yeah, interesting. I'm curious though, how come you have not or gotten the chance to visit either country?
Yeah, as an adult, I've had the opportunity to travel, and sometimes my mom will get at me and say, "You're traveling to all these other places, but you're not traveling to the places that are your cultural heritage." I'm like, "Yes, but if I'm gonna go there, I want to go with you guys,
right?
With you and my parents. I don't want to experience Puerto Rico for the first time without you, Mom, or the Dominican Republic without my dad." But growing up, most of my family was here in the US. So all of my mom's siblings And all of my cousins on my mom's side were here, and my grandmother was here. So and while we had like extended family back in Puerto Rico, like there wasn't the people who I needed to see, if you will, were all stateside. So they were either in Virginia or they were, a drive to New York away. So it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
With my dad's side, most of them were also here. And so it was more like, okay. And yeah, kind of.
Okay, that makes sense.
Really,
yeah. That's kind of
like all our people were here.
Yeah, that answers my follow-up question, which was like, do you have a lot of family actually still living over there? But if most of them are here in the States, then yeah, that makes sense.
A lot of my uncles have moved back on my dad's side, because I have one uncle on my mom's side. But a lot of my uncles on my dad's side have moved back to the Dominican Republic in their retirement. So I now actually have more family on my dad's side there than I do here in the US. So I know one of his brothers keeps poking him to be like, hey, when are you coming to visit me with your kids? When are you coming to visit me? So I think that might be in our future soon.
Awesome. Yeah, I hope you get the opportunity.
Me too.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, I think it's an important, like, I think it's an important trip to take. It just it's just nice. It helps you kind of, I always say that, but it kind of helps you like root yourself. You feel grounded,
Y'all have gone to Jamaica as well, right?
My mom's like, this is where we grew up.
She's like showed us the houses. She's like, look at how small our house was.
She's like, do you see how good you have it in America? Oh my gosh. I don't know if you get those things. I was like, when I was, our parents moved, I think my dad was maybe 19 or 20.
Yeah, he was like 19 or 20. A little
older.
And my mom was like 24.
She was already working as a pharmacist.
She was already working. She had like a big girl job and everything.
Yeah, so she was definitely more rooted there. So yeah, so she definitely is always reminding us how fortunate we are in her. Yeah, so we're like, and you can't compete with that. I'm like, Mom, what do you want me to say? Like, I don't know. Thank you for the better life.
Yeah. But it is good. It gives you that perspective. Like, until I went to Jamaica, I think I did take a lot of things for granted. I mean, I was quite young when we went, but I think it helped me to realize, like, some places don't always have hot water, and the power just goes out randomly. And so it was good to get that perspective for sure.
Interesting.
I've actually been to the DR once.
You have?
I went to like Punta Cana, which is like I know the very touristy place,
resort town.
So
what it's known to be resort.
So that's exactly where we were. So got to explore a little bit, but not too much. So it was nice, very nice. It rained a lot while we were there, which is
no.
Yeah, I know. We were actually there on our honeymoon, and it rained the whole time. And I was like, wanted to be outside because like, okay, so
that's why you chose.
I feel like I didn't get to experience it fully, but anyway.
But another thing that you mentioned earlier was that in Northern Virginia, like, there aren't a ton of Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and things. So how was that for you? Like, did you feel kind of like, oh, I'm different, or were there enough like other Hispanics that you were like, still you felt like okay, like, did you feel kind of othered, I guess, at any point growing up?
Yes. So I think when I got into college, I kind of found more Dominicans and Puerto Ricans than I had known were in Nova. I think the basis of my feeling othered, if you will, was my world was kind of like home and school and church. So I didn't really get out beyond those. Like, my extracurriculars were all kind of church related or school related. And my church is a predominantly English speaking, like predominantly white identifying church. Just kind of where the like luck of the draw, where we found our house, and we kind of built community. Things were a little tight at one point, and the church really helped us out as a family. And so my dad is incredibly loyal, and he was like, they helped us. This is where we're going. This is our parish, like our church community, if you will. So growing up there, we were one of the few Hispanic people kind of in the parish. and kind of still are, or at least I haven't found the other ones, if you will. I'm 29. I've been going there my whole life. And then with school, my parents, for reasons that they have on their own, chose to put us in private school. And in my private school, it was again predominantly white identifying private school in Northern Virginia, and we were kind of the only one of maybe 5 or 6 brown people, like Hispanic or other, and there are 3 of us, so we made up half of the population of Hispanic people at my school. There was one other Hispanic person in my class, but she was Argentinian, and she was very white presenting. So if you looked at like red hair, white freckles, if you looked at her, you'd be like, oh, that's just another white person. But I was like, nope, she's Argentinian. I know this. Meanwhile, I was very brown. I was outside much more often than I am now, so I was more tan. And so, yeah, there was a feeling of, and because I speak the language, and I was very, my dad is very loud, and especially watching sports, he was very animated on the sidelines, often got kicked out of games. Like, it was very much like, we are, oh, there's the Gills, like, there are. So yeah, there was a lot of that feeling. And if I may continue, I did some mission work in, local mission work at a church in Northern Virginia, and it was a very large Hispanic community, actually, like very Spanish-speaking parish. But even then, I speak the language, but these were, again, predominantly Central American families. And so I was like, oh, so these are kind of my people, but they're also kind of not my people. Like, some of the terminology is different. Some of the, terminology, the slang, the whatever, if you will, are different. I was like, I still feel kind of like not from here, or not like I fully belong, if you will. Interesting.
Yeah. I usually asked this question earlier, but since I remembered it now, let me ask it now. So for any time we have a guest who has like 2 different cultures, I usually ask, like, do you feel more of one or the other? So I'll ask you that. Do you feel more Dominican, more Puerto Rican? Is it's like the same? How do you feel?
I think I feel more Puerto Rican, mostly because my grandmother lived 5 minutes from our house. And all of my mom was just closer to her side of the family. So like I would visit with my aunts, all my aunties, and my grandmother all the time. Like, we go over to my grandma's house. So I think I just felt more in tune with the Puerto Rican side. There's a lot of similarities between the cultures, and kind of the backgrounds of the historical backgrounds of the islands. Although don't quote me on anything, because I'm not the source that you want to go to for history. But yeah, so I think I definitely feel more in tune with my Puerto Rican side than Dominican side, which is kind of. If you ask my Puerto Rican friends, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you're very Dominican."
Oh really?
Yeah. I'm like, why? What?
Oh my gosh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
So, okay, talking about, going to school and you kind of being like one of the few Hispanics and all that. So when you were in school, did you get asked like where you're from, or like what's your ethnicity or whatever? And then how did you respond to that? And did it bother you if you did get asked that?
So you're asking like past me or current me?
Well, both.
Both actually.
Yeah,
I'm curious
if you hear both.
Yeah.
My school is really, really small. In high school, like I graduated in a class of 17, so we're tiny. So everyone kind of knew where I was from, or where my people were from, or where my parents are from. But sometimes, like at church or in other places outside of school, I would get asked that question. So I would very quickly be like, oh, I'm Puerto Rican Dominican, because I knew what they were asking. And it didn't bother me all that much until maybe I got into college. And then I just started, kind of learning a little bit more about race and ethnicity, and because it just hadn't occurred to me to start like questioning, why are people asking where I'm from? And And so then over the course of these past, I don't know, maybe 10 years or so, I've started shifting my answer. And people ask, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Northern Virginia. Like, I'm from here, born and bred. Like, I was born in wherever hospital that everybody knows in this place. And they'll be like, no, where are you from? I'm like, Vienna. And I'll I'll stretch it to see like what is it that they're getting at. It depends on the person who's asking. If there's someone who I know is Hispanic, then I'm like, oh, they're asking like where your Spanish comes from, like where your heritage comes from. Or if I know that it's another like culturally or ethnically diverse person, like I'm like, oh, this is what like I'm very quick to answer, and I don't have a problem. Oh, my people are Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican Dominican. If it's someone who is not, and they seem to just be asking like they're like, there's something different about you. What is it that's different about you? I'll like stretch it to be like, why do you want to? What is it that you're asking? Like, why are you asking about my otherness?
Interesting.
So I'll stretch it until they're like, no, where are you? And then they're usually like, no, where are your parents from? And I'm like, ah, there it is. Or like, where are you culturally from?
That's really interesting. We love to ask this question because we had very polar opinions on this. Some people are just like, I don't care, whatever.
Right.
And then another person we interviewed was like, I hate it, and kind of like does the same, but in his culture, which I guess we can talk about now because this is a released episode already.
Yeah.
He's Indian, and very much in that culture, he was saying how he feels like sometimes like there's like the class-based system and a lot of like judge, and so he's like kind of tired of that, and so I think he just doesn't, he's like, he knows what people are getting at, and so sometimes he also will stretch it. He would say, and
sometimes it's a game for me.
Yeah, but would you? Okay, I guess the question I have is interesting that you kind of tailor it to like who's asking. Like, what was I going to say? Do you like if somebody was just to ask you like, hey, where are your parents from, and kind of be just more upfront about what they're actually getting at?
Right.
Are you okay answering, or would you still be like, let me see, like, why are they asking this?
I think if they were more upfront about it, if they were like, oh, where are your parents from, or what is your like heritage, like cultural heritage, if you will, I'd be like, oh, this is I think I'd probably be as upfront as they were.
Gotcha.
But I think as we've grown, especially I think our generation has become attuned to other people's kind of nuance, like getting to the point of what they're asking, like their intentions or their motivations, if you will. And we're like, we're quick to question why they're questioning us. Like, what are you actually? Maybe just be upfront about what you're actually saying, and then I'll give you an upfront answer. I think if someone were to be like, "Oh, where are your parents from?" I'd just tell them,
gotcha,
where they're from.
Very interesting. Yeah.
That is interesting. I just actually have grown to appreciate when people even ask, because I don't like when people just assume. Like, I don't know, like ever since I moved, ever since I moved out of Florida in particular, but especially out of Miami, people just assume that I'm Hispanic for some reason.
So interesting.
Like they just I can see that.
They start speaking to me in Spanish, like not even just like non-Hispanic people, like Hispanic people too. Like they just do it like everywhere I've moved to after Miami. They've just assumed that I'm Hispanic. Like everyone just assumes it, and it's so weird. Either I'm Hispanic or I'm Filipino. It's
That's
the
funny.
weirdest.
I don't get either of those.
Yeah, I get those all the time.
I can see that.
Yeah, I can see it too, Brie.
I have a couple of Peruvian friends that I think maybe it's the face shape and your hair.
Your hair is very dark. And,
it's true.
So it's interesting. Yeah, it used to bother me when I was younger, and because you don't think about and why they're asking, and so, but and I was like, why do they keep asking me this? And that's when I realized, like, oh, my parents look kind of different, and like it makes you point things out that like as a kid you don't think, and so, but yeah, it used to bother me a lot, but it doesn't bother me so much now. I think they're just kind of curious, and so, but yeah, it's always an interesting question we like to just ask our guests because it's so varied. I think your intention behind the question, you really need to know. Like, it really plays a big role in is what it kind of seems.
I get it. I get it enough now, and I know that people's intentions are very benign. Like they're just they're just curious, especially working in a church. But I'd still, I think, especially with the church that I work at, we're kind of more socially conscious, if you will. And so I sometimes like to kind of question people, like kind of dig at people. Like, why are you asking what you're asking? if you think about it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah.
Oh, that's good.
In general, they don't have bad intentions. They're just curious.
Yeah. 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 That's how I feel about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
As well.
I think Alex explained it like the best, where he was like, he's like, people are kind of like looking at you and they're like, I'm drawing you, I'm thinking of all the people in my head that like, and you're not matching anything, and like, where is it that people like you look like are from? And that's kind of how he phrased it, I remember, and I thought it was interesting way to kind of, and I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of it from that perspective. I think being mixed background, I'm always genuinely curious, like where, or if I do ask that, which I seldom do, usually I'm just like, yeah, where, like I will say like where your parents from, or like what's the origin of your name, or what's like something like that to kind of but yeah, it's just, I don't know.
I think I'm just too like scared to
That
ask.
too. I am usually
think
scared.
yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm just like, I'm just gonna wait for them to say it one day.
Right. It's just gonna slip.
Right.
They're gonna say something and you're gonna be like, ah, there it is.
Yeah. Like even sometimes like thinking about finding guests for this podcast amongst my friends, I realize like, man, I actually don't even know where this person's from. It's like I know they're from somewhere else, but I don't even know because we never really talked about it. But yeah, that's just a me thing, I think.
That's okay. It's good. Better to be safe. I think I'm just more like, hey.
Yeah.
Like,
If someone's like foreign, like actually like has an accent, I always ask like, where's your accent from?
Interesting.
But yeah, but not like if someone's American, I'm not like, where are you from?
Where's your accent from?
Yeah.
It's like
a lot of times people
Illinois
are
or something.
surprised.
Yeah.
People are surprised that Brand and I don't have an accent or something, and I'm
know.
like, we grew up here. I'm like, yes,
right.
my parents are Jamaican, but we.
What would it be?
I guess they're expecting
You're
us
like,
to have a Jamaican accent.
I wish I had
my
one.
brain went to like Miami. Like, are you supposed to have like a pseudo Hispanic accent? Like, do they even have one there?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much the Miami accent is like this pseudo Hispanic. It's like this mix of like American and Cuban, I guess. I don't know what it is. It's like no, yeah. How weird would it be if we were just walking around with a Jamaican accent?
I don't know, it'd be kind of cool. I wish I had one a little bit, but it's sorry, but it doesn't make any sense for us.
Yeah, it just makes no sense.
Do you ever say phrases or whatever, and like a patois comes out, or like an accent comes out?
It wasn't until I went to college that I kind of realized it and like started like dating my husband now, because like there's things like we pronounce things like, was it like condensed milk, for example? I don't know. We use that a lot in certain things, and like my mom would say condensed milk, like condensed, like, and so certain things, and like apparently like idioms mess up a little bit. So like I guess the phrase is like make the bed, but my mom would always say, like, my parents say like spread the bed, like, and my husband one time was like, you spread stuff on a sandwich, what do you like, or like you make your bed, and I was like, I don't know, this is just, it's a little thing sometimes were pointed out to me that you don't think anything of it because that's just what you grew up in, right? So that's the only way. So just things like, I don't know if you have any other examples.
Yeah, no, those are the main examples. I still say those. I still say spread the bed, and I say condensed milk all the time. I used to, at one time I used to say like et instead of eight. Yeah. And I remember one time I said it and I didn't think anything of it, and like these kids in my middle school were like, what?
What did you say?
I was like, what? I ate the sandwich or something, like, I don't know. Like,
and I'm sure they didn't say it nicely because it's middle school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I took it to heart that much, but like, I was like, I think ever since then I knew it like got beaten out of me. I was like, okay, it's 8. It's 8. But yeah,
just little things,
like little things. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. That would be interesting. Jamaican accents. Another thing I wanted to ask you about though, because I think we talked about it in our like intro episode. But one of the like inspirations kind of actually for this podcast, at least on my end, was the SNL skit with Pedro Pascal where he plays like the Hispanic mom. And that skit was written or like inspired by Marcello Hernández, who's a member of the SNL cast, who is actually from Miami and is Cuban Dominican. And it's just really, I think it's just a really interesting take on the immigrant mom, stereotype, I guess, or just like that whole
persona.
yeah. So do you have any like funny stories, or like do you relate, first of all, that skit, like do you relate
It's so
to it?
funny.
Yeah, do you relate to it, and like do you have any
Yes.
funny stories of your parents doing like Hispanic parent things?
Oh man, I remember watching that skit with my brother, and we could not breathe. It was so funny. And the thing about that was also hilarious for me, and I think I remember telling you, Brianna, was that there were no subtitles
Right.
at the time, like because it was live. And so we were just enjoying all of the skit from start to finish
Right.
because we understood
Okay.
all of it, and we were dying the whole time. Um and uh then yeah, basically the end. The end on the skit.
I didn't think of it that way. Like, it's true. Like, I actually have no idea what he's
Right.
saying, but it's funny. I'm just like
Yeah.
I'm just
basing it off of
laughing
the
at the
yeah. But I
like,
get you probably enjoyed even more because you understanding like even the
yeah.
phrases he's probably saying. That's yeah. Have you seen the one with Bad Bunny?
I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh, you
I
gotta
think
watch it. That's a good one.
I think my brother did watch it. He watches us now more religiously than I do. Probably because I have to wake up earlier than he does on Sundays. That's just the name of the game. In terms of Hispanic things that my parents have done that are kind of like stereotypical Hispanic, I mean, they do it all the time. If I were to try and pinpoint one, I don't know if I would be able to. But I think it was just so kind of it was so real, the flip-flopping that Pedro Pascal did as mom, like so dramatic about like this random person coming into her family's home, and then oh, she was a Christian. Oh, why didn't you start with that? I think not that I've not that my parents have like lived through that necessarily with their my brother's significant others with their with their wives now. But it was I think I've seen it perhaps
Yeah.
maybe in my grandmother in the past, or I don't know. But I don't know, it was something that just felt very very close to home.
Very relatable.
Now I'm going to be thinking about things that my parents do that are very Hispanic that I probably don't realize are just like very hilarious. Maybe when it comes to freight, their pronunciation of things is like all kind of very bad. Like my mom, bless her, she didn't understand how to say Venmo or PayPal. And so one day she like walked into my room and she was like, Amelia, do you have Bembo or Plepla?
Right, the V is like a B.
Yeah,
right?
the V is always hard.
Yes, I do.
And there was something else. She can't say charcuterie. Like
I'm sorry,
she can't say charcuterie.
Sorry, it's just so funny that you bring it up because we just recently had that issue with
gosh,
my mom
I was
too.
like, did you talk to her about
She can't say charcuterie either.
It's one of the funniest things. And sometimes she'll just get stuck trying to say a phrase or a word that is very American, or not even, it's just whatever. And
Yeah.
she'll just get stuck and she'll just keep repeating it and repeating it wrong. And so we're laughing at her because it's funny and she's laughing with us, but she's like, this is it, right? No, mom, that's not it. That's really not it at all.
Oh my gosh. Did you not talk to her about
No, I didn't talk to her about that, so that's really funny.
That's a hard word though.
I will say that is I think technically that's like a French word or something.
So. It is, yeah.
Yeah, my mom also,
how did she say it, Brie?
She said charcuterie.
Okay, that's kind of that's closer. My mom's more like chachucheri.
Yeah.
We're trying not to spike the mic. That's why
I know. Yeah, that's why we have to move.
Okay.
Yes.
That is great.
That is so. Charcuterie is the word.
It's a hard one.
That
it is.
And squirrel. Our parents cannot say squirrel. I don't know. It's a
I don't even know if my parents try. I think they just say ardilla. I think they just like say the Spanish word.
See, that's
squirrel is how.
Yeah, they say squirrel.
The squitter?
I don't know. It's the double
I don't think
R.
I've ever heard my mom say the word squirrel.
Yeah, that is a hard one. That's always one that, like, when people try and do a challenge of, like, non-English speakers, they're like, "Say squirrel." Like, can you say squirrel?
My parents are like, "I don't even think we have squirrels in Jamaica."
Yeah, they're like, "We don't have." They have some other thing.
They say
That's
mongoose. I was like, "That's a
mongoose
very
or
different
something.
animal," but
Yeah,
But it's
whatever.
not the same kind of animal.
I know.
But
They claim that there are no squirrels in Jamaica. I guess maybe. I don't know. I mean, I will say the times I've been there, I have not seen a squirrel, so maybe that's a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
That's funny.
But yeah, no, it is fun. We're not laughing at them.
Not that we're not trying to
them.
perpetuate
Yeah.
stereotypes or anything, but it's
No.
just sometimes it's fun to poke.
It's just fun.
Debunk
Yeah.
any or
I think my mom especially, she understands that she's saying it wrong and that it's kind of comical, and so she'll laugh with us, but she'll keep going.
Yeah.
We're like, "Mom, no, please just stop." So she's like, "Okay."
Yeah, our mom just like she doesn't
effort.
even care after a while. Like we'll be like, "Mom," like with charcuterie, I was like, "Mom, like say it with me." Charcuterie. And then like it was really funny because she basically why she was saying that word was because she was holding a party for her like church friends.
Oh yeah.
And she wanted to have a charcuterie board. And so like I kept teaching her, I was like, charcuterie, say it after. And then at the party, she was like, "Does anyone want to see my charcuterie board?" Like she kept like she would say it the same way. I was like trying to teach her. It was funny.
That's
but like
sweet though.
Yeah, it was sweet. But usually she like you try and tell her the right way to say it, she just like doesn't care after a while. She's like, "I'm just gonna say it how I say it." Yeah.
She gets people's names wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Like, what's your friend's name?
Yes, everybody has a nickname.
Yeah.
Everybody has a nickname.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a thing? Yeah. Is that a thing in like Dominican and Puerto Rican? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like one of my coworkers, my dad was like, "Oh, she's La Alta," just because she's kind of tall. They're mostly descriptors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's like their nickname for forever now.
That's so funny. Yeah.
In my dad's eyes. My dad has a nickname for everyone. I think it might be because he doesn't want to be bothered learning anyone's names.
Right.
Like, which I didn't realize until maybe just right now. But yeah, there's a nickname for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing. We talked about this again in a previous episode with a guest who was from Guyana. His family's from Guyana, and yeah, I think it's just a Caribbean thing. Like, yeah, Jamaican people again. It's very descriptive. Jamaican people, it's usually very funny too. Actually, it's like descriptive in a funny way.
Yeah, pinky. There's lots of
a lot of pinkies.
I don't know why.
Because they're small.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're pinky. And then a lot of probably like non-PC names of like people's skin color. Like our mom is part Chinese and she's Miss Chin to like most Jamaican people. Yeah, that's just
I know,
how it
which is it's interesting to hear how like she said it wouldn't be PC here, but over there it's not really.
No.
Right.
Races. I mean, I'm not gonna say. I don't really know much about it. It's more like social class difference. There's like everyone's so mix up as my mom likes to say. It's not like everyone's just brown, different shades of brown, I guess, for the most part. So it's interesting, that they say that, but yeah, that wouldn't be PC, I guess. But in their context, it doesn't matter. So
yeah, like you said, it's just a different. I just feel like it's a different relationship to race.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because I feel like when us growing up, they didn't really understand maybe some of those race things. I think that maybe we were going through growing up. At least for me, I feel like Brian and I had very different identity upbringings. I feel like I more noticed it felt more of that otherness than maybe she did.
Do you think it's because you're the older one?
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean,
older one, the older sister, the older one.
I'm not sure.
Like my oldest brother perceived his childhood and kind of like our upbringing very differently from me. Maybe it's just like that's my personality. Like I'm like la 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 half the time anyway. But like he was.
Me too. Yeah.
I mean, I'm like la 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 la, and that's how I describe my childhood. I'm like I don't know. I don't remember half of it.
Same.
And so my brother, he's like, he has very pointed opinions about how he was he perceived people othering him or felt the kind of like race or ethnic connotations around us as a family, around him as a person, differently than I do, and our middle brother as well.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that has a thing to play. Brianna was very studious, way more than I was, so maybe she was just had her nose in a book too much. I don't know. She
Yeah,
was.
probably was.
You were very like. I've never seen such a driven like child before in my life.
And I like
like she would pull all-nighters as like
a
a kid.
and like
I didn't know this
like
No.
in like freshman year.
Yeah.
Nope.
Especially in high school, you were so I think she was I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why I perceived it differently.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I just maybe was so focused on that, and I like just didn't. Not that I didn't care what people thought about me, but like I don't think I cared as much as the average like child at that time. Like I was just like, I just want to get an A. It's like, I don't know. It's like, leave me alone.
But that's another immigrant theme a little bit, is that like kind of you have that like always like pushing to do more. Like we were talking about, like our mom was like, you guys are so fortunate to live in this first world country. And we are like, and you have, I feel like as a child of immigrants, you have this like innate indebtedness to your parents, whether you want to or not. It's like, okay, they gave this life to me, and all this stuff. And
they worked their butts off and still kind of do.
Yes.
For me to have the opportunities I have, and especially, us going to private school, like I was very much aware of just how much they were hustling in a way, like within reason. They weren't going as like above and beyond as I know a lot of other people's parents do and or have and do. But yeah, very much so. And education also was really big for my parents. We're the first in, like, our generation is the first to have gone to college. My cousins graduated from college before we did because we're kind of the babies of the family. But from my parents, from them too, they did not go to college. And so when we walked, they like, it was almost like it was their achievement. Like it was our own stuff, and they let us study whatever we wanted to, which is kind of a blessing. Like I wasn't, I like Brianna, I majored in music, and like maybe stereotypically a lot of other immigrant children, they're like, okay, it's like doctor, lawyer,
or something, teacher,
whatever, or something, or teacher, or some engineer, kind of. And so, I mean, both of my brothers, one is an engineer and the other is a doctor, but a physical therapy. But and so I'm the weird one. Like, I'm like, I'm the music, la la la. I go la la la.
They're like, we'll just let Amelia do it.
Yeah, they're like, it's fine. She's the only girl. No, but it very much is like I did feel, especially with my education, I didn't try as hard as I probably could have. I hate studying, and I never studied for anything. But I definitely felt like, especially in undergrad, because they were like, we're also going to pay for your college, which I know is an incredible gift, that I needed to do my best, and I needed to be present in my classes, and I didn't really skip any classes when I was in college and grad school. That's a whole other thing. I was paying for that one, but like I was very much aware of how I was doing in my classes and whatnot, because it was so important to them, and because they were offering it to me, if you will.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Unlike Bree, I did not really care about school that much, other than like going to PE and like hanging out with my friends. It wasn't until like college I kind of got latter half of high school I got serious. But yeah, Bree was pretty serious. That's funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. I hated PE. Like I was like, I was like, why do I have to do this? Yeah,
I didn't have PE at my school.
Oh, that's awesome. I hated.
I mean, again, tiny school.
Yeah. Okay, so you felt like. Education is definitely always a big thing, but you felt like you were able to pursue what you wanted. Like, I'm actually curious, as a music major, did you feel, because now that I'm curious, because now that Brianna is actually like my mom was kind of like cool with it when it was like in middle school and high school and a little bit in undergrad, I think, but once okay. Well, I feel like when Brianna actually wanted to make like a career out of it, she was kind of like, wait, what? This is like supposed to be a little like passion side thing, but you're supposed to do a quote unquote real job.
Right.
Did you experience that as a music major yourself, or were your parents pretty supportive?
No, my parents are probably more supportive of my musical career than I am.
Wow. Okay. That's not what I was
expecting. Which is really funny. So I think my dad loves, like, they've both been like musical untrained, but so my dad like loves classical music, loves opera, like, and so the fact that I was like, oh, I'm gonna major in music, he was like, this is it. My child will be at Carnegie Hall. Like this is where he's like, Carnegie Hall man, I don't even know where his brain's going. And I'm like, or not, or none of those places. That's also fine. Or like I sing at church and everybody thinks it's nice. So I think for them, actually, it's, they had higher expectations of me vocally and like musically than I even do. And still to this day, like most of the pressure that I feel from not performing as much as I do or at all is from like knowing that my parents are like, but what are you doing with your voice?
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Free's like, I have no idea what that's like.
No. I mean, apparently my mom has kind of switched up a little. Like, apparently she has told people like, "Oh, Brianna doesn't sing as much anymore," or something like. Yeah, well, like I don't know,
That's
but
so funny.
but yeah, but generally she was not. I mean, not that she. I hate to see. I don't want to characterize her as being like completely unsupportive because
Right.
she was like she like you like she helped pay for my or she did pay for my college. And yeah, and all of that. So it's not like she was completely unsupportive, but she definitely was like, "What are you doing? Like, I'm helping you, but like, I just don't know where this is going." So, yeah. So that's good that you had that support.
They're like total like if like think choir mom, but like just for one person.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's nice. That's nice.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
funny.
I think early, and I will say that this is probably just, I don't know if a lot of parents, I don't know anything about parenting, but I mean, I think I got lucky with my parents that they recognize that all their kids, their three kids are all very different and all have very different gifts and have very different kind of interests, if you will. Like they learned very early on that my oldest brother, engineer, like that's how his brain works. He taking apart, building Legos, like all like from go basically. That kind of mindset. And Jose, the middle one, oh, I guess I hadn't said any other names. Anyway, the oldest one's
That's fine.
and Jose, the middle one, very much a people person, very much into sports and movement. And so all that kind of, and service is, he's always been that way. So it makes sense that he's a physical therapist. And then, I have whatever I am. And so I don't know. La la la.
Yeah. Girl, we're the same. See, this is why we're friends, because I'm also like, yeah, la la la. Yeah. Same. Absolute same.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we kind of joked that like my mom probably won't like to hear this, but we joked that like my mom's favorite child is the one who's costing her the least amount of money. And so we were just yeah.
So who is that right now?
That's
just
me.
kidding.
Yeah, that would be her.
That'd be me.
She's like making big bucks.
I don't know about that. Don't like lie to the people.
Okay.
But well, she lives with me, so I guess she sees it as like it's all good. We love having her.
Yeah.
Well, I live with my parents still, so
yeah.
no
And that's
shame.
another thing. Actually, sorry, this is like going on, but that's another thing too. Is that can you kind of talk about how in Hispanic culture overall, like it's not taboo to live with your parents? Like, because I feel like that's such a like people don't get that who don't understand that culture. Like, can you kind of explain how like it's, if anything, that's kind of just customary in Hispanic culture, from what I understand?
Yeah. My mom lived with her mom until she got married, basically. And what's really interesting, funny, she says it in this way. She grew up with four sisters. She was like, I never had my own bed. She always shared a bed with someone, like either her siblings or her husband. Like she's like, I've never had my own bed, Amelia. Like I've had my own room my entire life. I'm in the same room that I grew up in from when we got this house. It did get a makeover. This wallpaper was not there growing up. I did not have that good taste when I was 8. But yeah, it's not necessarily taboo for people to live with family. Multi-generational housing is also, like houses are also not out of the norm. I don't know if some of it is financial. For some people it might be financial, but for others it's just, this is just what we do. Like who else, like why are you going to live with randos and you can live with your family? Like I lived outside of the home when I went to grad school. So I commuted all 4 years to college. So I lived in this room. And then I went to grad school, and that's the only time I was away. And then I did, when I did my local year of mission work, I lived in a like a community house, which was 20 minutes away from my home. And so my mom was like, this is dumb. I mean, I get why you have to, but I still think it's really dumb that you're not in your home. I think there is maybe some kind of stigma about women, especially in our culture. Like my brother moved out of the house when he went to college, kind of similarly, and he lived in a communal home for like 2-3 years, but that was close to his college. It was still, he went to school maybe half an hour from here, and so that still, my mom was still a little like annoyed about it, but she was less annoyed about it than when I was living 20 minutes from home, and I was like, why is that? Like we were both single at the time. He was single, he was unmarried, and I'm unmarried. And she's like, I don't know, like you're the girl. Like that's just the only answer. That's the only answer they have. It's like you're the I don't know, you're the girl. Like you either leave here like married or not, or like why, unless you're moving to a different city, unless you're not living in this place, like why would you not live with your parents? Is what kind of her mentality. I understand it in some way, shape, or form. Like I get it. It's comfortable. It's definitely financially helpful for me, where I am right now. And a lot of my non-culturally diverse, if you will, all my white friends, don't get it.
Yeah.
They're like, but don't you feel like you have no privacy, or like,
Yeah.
don't you feel a little like you want to spread your wings, or I don't even know what they say. And I'm like, kind of not. I mean, I don't know. I get my meals cooked.
Yeah, nice.
And I have a really good relationship with my parents as is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question,
Yeah.
Brie. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I just
I
think
have
that
a lot of Filipino friends who also, they like, she
Yeah,
moved out of one of my really good Filipino friends. She married another Filipino, and she moved into her husband's home from her parents' home.
yeah.
And even then, like her parents and his parents are still very much like, they come in and out of their house all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, family's big, I think, and this
Yeah.
is just, or keeping close and
Yeah.
stuff like that, which maybe kind of differs. Not saying that Americans aren't close with family, but there's kind of this thing of like, okay, you're
Right.
18, get out of the nest.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Right.
So it's a little bit probably foreign maybe to people
Hmm.
who maybe aren't used to that. Yeah.
I think in some ways, some sense, if you could think about it in terms of back when our parents first came here, or some other generations first came here, like families, they're the only people that you know.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not like you know a whole bunch of people to be comfortable with and living with.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about
That is
that.
a good. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
That is true.
I mean, our dad pretty much, I don't know if my dad
Yeah, our dad
ever
pretty much always lived
with
with
like either
family.
he's always had some woman to take care of him, I think, pretty much.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, he's either with a sister or he got married to my mom. Yeah, so it's just interesting but yeah, I wouldn't say that in Jamaican culture it's as like maybe as tight as that per se, like as common to see multi-generational, but it's not uncommon either, I guess, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's yeah, like you said, I think it is that like family component. It's just there's so much more of an emphasis on that. Like the whole like people, like a lot of people here like not talking to their parents.
Oh yeah.
Like for like I haven't talked to my parents in like months. I'm like, what?
How?
Like, if I didn't talk to my mom in months, she would think I'm dead. She like
Well,
she would
first of all, she wouldn't let you do that.
Well,
She
yeah,
would
she
Yeah,
wouldn't.
I
Yeah,
know. It's like, in what world do you think that would?
yeah, exactly.
She
No,
would let
first of all,
that happen.
yeah, it wouldn't happen.
No.
But like, if we don't talk for like a day,
week.
or like or a week, she'll think I'm like
Ooh,
dead.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, no. Something has to be like seriously wrong. Like I have to be in a different country with no access to a phone to
Yes.
not talk to my mother for
Yeah.
a whole week. Like she'd
Yeah.
be calling all the embassies.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, yeah, it's just kind of different. And even how sometimes I see some of these kids these days, like I sound like an old person. These kids these days,
Kids these days.
get off my lawn. Sometimes I see the way some of these. I'm getting older. Sometimes I see how
I
these
know.
kids talk to their parents, and they're like, "Shut up, mom," or like whatever.
what?
Yeah,
Absolutely
what?
not.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I said that, I would have been. I mean, not that our parents beat us or anything, but like it just was not a lot. Like
Oh, absolutely not.
respect and like is very very big, especially of your elders and stuff. So I could never do that. It's funny.
No.
So anyway, it's different.
Oh no. Anyway, yeah. So
Good question.
yeah, that was
Yeah,
great.
that's a good question.
So let's go to our like fun culture. I mean, this has all been fun. I always say that, but this has all been fun. I hate to
We're so repetitive in our.
I know
we need to change it up.
we're new to this.
We're working on it. I share the same anecdote. I really need to work on it.
Yeah, we're working on it. But yeah, just some lighter topics.
Okay.
So since you have thought about this, I'm gonna start with this question: what is your favorite expression or saying from Dominican, Puerto Rican cultures?
I don't really know which culture. So my grandmother had so many dichos, we call them, like sayings.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd like pull them out all the time. I mean, just off the cuff ones, like ADH is just like from my dad, actually. It's very Dominican, like what, oh my goodness, or like what the heck.
Okay.
ADH. So I'd say it like all the time. Vaina is another word that we say it's just a word for thing, but like I'll just add it in wherever. I think that's one of my favorites. I asked my mom, actually, I was like, which are ones that we say all the time? Because if I like forget them, then my parents say one that's all the time: machacar en hierro frío y sembrar en un desierto y darle consejo a un muerto, eso es tiempo perdido.
Whoa.
Which is like,
I heard frío in there. That's what
it's like basically to like, I don't actually know what machacar is. En hierro frío. Like basically to like try and like dig in like frozen earth, or like, and like try and grow something in the desert and give counsel to a dead person is basically a waste of time. Like waste of time.
That's a deep
Very
one.
Poetic. Yeah.
That one's that's a big expression, but like my parents, it's been coming up like all the time now. I think maybe as you know, we've gotten older and our people have gotten older, like our friends have gotten older, like why waste your time giving advice to people that just aren't going to listen. Another really funny one: en boca cerrada no entran moscas, but which is in a closed mouth the flies won't enter. But my mom's dad, when they were new to the country and new to English, he'd say, in closed mouth no coming fly. So I always think of it that way: closed mouth no coming fly.
So they translated it to English.
Yeah, he translated it.
Oh, okay.
And then I think one of my personal favorites, and because I bake a lot, and sometimes sometimes I cook. I don't really cook all that much. But I'd be like, ojo que no ven, corazón que no siente. Like if the eyes don't see it, the heart doesn't feel it. Like if I accidentally drop like a piece of potato on the ground and I just like pick it up and wash it, like they won't know. They don't know. They don't know what happened. They won't know what. They don't know. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I think those are some of my favorites.
Cool.
Yeah,
Ooh, those are good ones.
A lot of good ones.
Yeah.
There.
Ooh, she likes to bake. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your? Okay. I'm like, I love.
Oh wait, I do have one more.
Oh.
¿Quién te manda is a really funny one. Like who made you do that? Like nobody told you to do that.
Yeah.
Basically, like if you stub your toe or like you fall on your face, like ¿quién te manda? Who told you to go be doing something stupid? Now look at you.
Yeah.
There we go.
Those are good. Those are a lot of good ones. Yes. I love those. Okay. Another one of my favorites. Do you have a favorite celebrity from each culture? Why is it Lin-Manuel Miranda? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh gosh.
I know. I already did. I'm sorry.
I mean, I would probably.
He's
Jose Feliciano for Puerto Ricans.
Yeah.
And Mark Anthony, I think, probably my favorites. Jose Feliciano just like my go-to, honestly, like one of my top artists on my streaming platforms. Like with it shows how much of an old soul I am.
Yeah.
In terms of Dominican ones, again, I'm like not as well versed in Dominican culture, and so I can unfortunately say that I have no idea.
It can be Dominican
because I'm terrible.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's okay.
I don't know if that helps at all.
You gave us two, so
yeah.
So kind of like you're when you think of like Puerto Rican musicians, I think of Jose Feliciano and Mark Anthony.
Yeah, for sure.
This is the second time Brianna's brought up Lin-Manuel.
I know.
We had another.
She's just obsessed.
Shoehorning him in there.
We had another Puerto Rican guest, and I knew she was. Yeah, it's just funny. No, he's very talented.
Why is it not Lin-Manuel? No, I'm just kidding. No, it's fine.
I mean, he is incredibly talented.
Yeah. Are you into musical theater as much as like Brianna is, or are you like?
I am. I haven't been as much lately, but
Yeah.
I do love me some musical theater. There was one day I was working from home, and I'm in my room, and because I'm working from home, I can listen to music and sing along to it. And one day I was just like listening to a lot of show tunes, and my dad opens the door to my room and is like, "Are you even working?" And I was like, "Yes, I am doing both. Like I can multitask."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Suck my joy out of this work day.
Yeah. I feel like my dad used to be like, when I used to like listen to music too when I would work, he's like, are you
even
actually
working?
doing anything? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Let me
Nice.
ask. How about I ask next
Yeah.
one? Yeah. Well, let's see. Another one we typically like to ask is, what are some of your favorite foods from various countries?
Anything plátano related. So plantains.
Yep.
Which, you as Jamaicans probably, because we're from Africa. That's what it is. So tostones, which are, the green plantains that are double fried. They're delicious. And maduros also are the sweet ripe ones. Also incredibly delicious. And anything that involves plantains. So
Gotcha.
mango, mofongo.
This is a fun word to say.
Yeah, that is a fun one.
Actually,
there's also
pastelón is
also
another big one.
about that.
You said what?
Yeah.
Alcapurrias, pastelón. Pastelón is like kind of like a layered, almost like a lasagna, but with like instead of pasta, it's plantains.
Okay.
My grandma didn't make it with like a cheese filling either. It was just like literally just like ground beef plantains, like delicious.
Okay, so you really are leaning into the plantains.
Yeah.
It has to be a little bit. Okay, it's just really funny that you said, because plantains are a big part of Jamaican cuisine as well. But I actually don't like plantains.
I know.
Only like plantain chips, like the salt. Like I don't like the sweet. I know.
So you guys might like tostones, which are the savory, like salty ones.
Maybe.
They're just
I've never tried those.
Yeah. I have
so
not.
you just take a green plant. Okay, I'm turning into my grandma. Take green plantain, like very green. You peel it. You cut it into like thick, kind of like coins, if you will, but they're like thick, so it's probably like this thick, and they're coins. And then you fry that, let it cool, squish it with what we call a tostonera. So basically, you flatten it so it looks like a chip, if you will.
Okay.
Almost like a chip, but thicker. So it's about this thick, and then you fry it again. And then you cover it, and then you salt it. Yeah, double fried, and then you salt it. Some people put adobo on it, which I've heard. Sounds delicious, but so I think you guys would like tostones because it's not the sweet ones; they're the savory ones.
Okay.
Which are very good when you're eating rice and beans because then you can use it as a shovel.
Okay. There you go.
Those things from my childhood that just come back, like rice and beans, shovel, and then it's like you get like a whole meal, in one bite. You can put some meat on it, and then you have your rice and beans.
Yeah. I like it. All right.
Nice. Yeah. I wasn't gonna admit that, but yeah.
If Brianna ever comes to visit my house, I'm turning into my mother. If Brianna ever comes to visit my house, we'll make tostones.
There you go.
Yes.
You don't have to eat. You could just try it.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to eat the rest of it.
And then maybe she can bake chocolate chip cookies or something. You can bring it back.
I know. Yeah, I don't think I've had very many things that you've baked before. Yeah,
I know that I only bake when I feel like it, which is rarely. My mom gets mad. She's like, "You never bake." I don't feel like it.
That's fair. That's cool. Yeah. No. I would love to have something that you've baked. Yeah.
I make a good flan, I think.
Okay.
I did inherit my grandmother's flan. Now that she's passed, I think I'm like the flan person of the family.
Okay.
The many times that I called her, like, "Abuelita, wait, how do you do it?" For her flan, I think I make it well.
Good. Nice.
Making grandma proud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Flan lives on. Yeah.
All right. I think we'll do one more, maybe. What were you saying here?
Oh no, you're good.
Okay. I thought you were pointing at something. All right. Still not sure about this question, but are there any like stereotypes or like misunderstandings about your parents' culture? No?
You can. No.
I don't know. I wasn't sure, but yeah,
let's just go to the other one.
Yeah,
go to the other one.
Go to which one?
Just what do you love the most and all that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just end with this one.
Just start it like you're gonna.
Yeah.
When you edit it.
So go on to our last question here. What do you love the absolute most about your parents' cultures?
That's a good question. I don't know. Growing up, definitely different from people around me. I think it was a big source of pride that I was different. Like there was something, not that other people's cultures were boring, but I was like, there's something not boring about my family and about my parents. I mean, I love that it's all encompassing, the language, the music, the food, the people, the family, like it's all kind of all in one. I think I never really felt like I fit in one culture or another, but in my family, I was like, yes, I fit. Um, I think maybe that's something that is like my favorite thing that I knew, like and still do, like I know who I am and where I came from because of my parents. And I definitely feel like I explore different cultures and I like learning about different ones, but then like when I come back to my own, I'm like, oh right, yeah, this is home. So maybe it's the music, maybe it's like something intrinsic like that you can't really put your finger on. But I don't know if this answered the question at all.
I suppose
But
did.
I just I kind of like all of it.
Yeah.
Their loudness sometimes they feel things very passionately, whether that's our like or our dislike. I think there can be duplicitousness, but sometimes because we do like some chisme. But but I think it's like you get what you get, and I don't know. There's something kind of nice about that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question at all? I can always try again.
No. That's good. There's no right or wrong, right? It's just how you feel. And kind of two things popped up when you said that. One is that I can just tell just from how you are talking about them and all that, like the strong love you have for them, love and respect and closeness. So, that's really cool to see. Always like heartwarming. And then, even though Brianna and me are obviously not of Hispanic descent, growing up in Miami, I think, we have felt it's almost like an honor. I love the music and I do love the culture and all that, even though it's not mine because I was surrounded by it. So it's always so that's really cool. Good to hear your
Yeah, it's just kind of fun.
It is fun. Yeah. No, I feel like a lot of people on the outside looking in, it's like everyone just thinks of like pretty much all Hispanic cultures as just being like, just fun. Like I mean, obviously there's more nuance to it than that, but like I think everyone loves the music and just like the kind of confidence that a lot of Hispanic people carry themselves with and all of that. So not every.
I'm not one of those.
I'm not like.
I mean, that is
way to generalize.
I know I am generalizing.
We stereotype us as spicy Latinas.
Okay, we're gonna cut that part out.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We're always.
I was trying to show my admiration.
No, I know.
I'm giving you a hard time. You're fine.
It's just because we're friends.
Yeah, we're always so worried. Like, oh gosh, we're gonna say something. It's gonna upset. But like when we've had, we try to let people. And this is the part we're going to use in the podcast. We're just saying it now. We'll do a proper exit, but like we try to let people speak authentically about how they feel about stuff, and sometimes it's not favorable of their country. Yeah. So, but we have a little disclaimer in our thing that's like we do not share the thoughts and opinions of all of our kids. So, but we let them speak. So anyway, very good. You answered it perfectly. Okay.
Yeah, no, that was a great answer. Yeah, I really loved it actually. So thank you for that, and thank you so much for being here, Amelia.
Thank you for having me. It's been so fun. I know that Brianna and I have talked kind of like off and on about growing up in cultures different from our parents. There are a lot of similarities, just in general being a child of immigrants. But I think it's just been really cool hearing about your perspectives as well. And thank you for letting me share mine.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.